how leaders react after a tragedy like the Orlando massacre gives people an insight into what kind of a leader and what kind of a potential president they would be. And I want to ask you about some of the things that Donald Trump has done in the last week, Senator. First, his comments the day after the tragedy that seem to imply that President Obama is somehow sympathetic to the terrorists. Here he is.
He doesn't get it, or he gets it better than anybody understands. It's one or the other, and either one is unacceptable. We're led by a man that either is not tough, not smart, or he's got something else in mind.
Question, do you know what that something else Trump refers to that he thinks that President Obama has in mind?
No, I don't. I don't know what he's referring to there, but I do believe he is correct to raise the question that the policies of this administration, from going back to 2011 when we withdrew all our troops from Iraq and allowed ISIS to form and become an entity, probably would never have happened otherwise. It's certainly not spread as much as it has. So I think he...
Forgive me. Yeah. I just want to go through what Trump said. He said, either he doesn't get it or he gets it better than anyone understands. He's got something else in mind. I mean, that certainly seems to imply that somehow he is sympathetic to radical Islam.
No, I don't think he means that, but I think he's going, I think he's criticizing him, President Obama, for going too far, to not understanding the threat. The president and Hillary Clinton now says she wants to go from 10,000 Syrian refugees to 65,000 Syrian refugees. When Mr. Brennan, CIA director, says we can't do vetting on that, when we know that right now a team from European leaders say are heading to Europe to attack Europe from Syria. So we can't vet these people because we don't have any background on them. There's no way to go into their communities and check their records, their arrest records, or their business records. All you have is what they tell you. And we know, as CIA director said, refugees provide an opportunity to enter the United States and create attacks.
Then Trump said, and we kind of touched on this before, that President Obama should resign and Hillary Clinton should drop out of the race because of their refusal or failure to say the phrase radical Islam. Here's how the president responded to that.
There's no magic to the phrase radical Islam. It's a political talking point. It's not a strategy.
Now, I understand the argument. You can't beat the enemy unless you identify the enemy, and clearly there is an Islamist, jihadist component in this. But I think, would you agree with the president that even if you say the name, that the real key is what's your plan, what's your strategy to beat ISIS?
Well, I don't understand the president's view on this at all. I think it's totally inexplicable. And when Donald Trump went directly at Hillary Clinton on this, for the first time she said the words Islamic extremism or something to that effect. And because she hasn't taken an indefensible position. Of course that's what it is. You know, of course this is what the threat is. It is out there, it's growing, and CIA director indicated it looks like it will continue to grow. Even though we can have some battlefield victories against ISIS, the threat is still expanding.
Then Trump upset some veterans by accusing American soldiers of stealing some of the millions of dollars that the U.S. was supplying to help with reconstruction efforts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Here's Trump.
I want to know who are the soldiers that had that job, because I think they're living very well right now, whoever they may be.
Now, the Trump campaign said, no, they were talking about Iraqi soldiers, but Senator, he talked about the same thing last September, and it was even clearer then that he was talking about U.S. soldiers with millions of dollars that they were handing out for reconstruction efforts in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, we put out a huge amount of money in Iraq and Afghanistan. So much it was wasted and abused and used corruptly. It's just no doubt about it.
Do you think U.S. soldiers were stealing it?
No, not in general, but some were convicted. Some U.S. people have been convicted of offenses dealing directly with the abuse of that money. So I think we do have a big problem with our allies, with the soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, and a lot of that money has been poorly spent, and we need a tough leader to tighten it up. We don't have any money to waste on corruption.
Let's turn to the state of relations between Trump and his own party, GOP leaders. Here's some of what they had to say about Trump this week.
I was asked about every incident last week. I've already said I disapproved of them time and time and time again.
He's a different kind of candidate. This is a different kind of year. I'm going to be myself and speak up in defense of our principles.
Now, Trump said after that that they should, quote, be quiet and that he might run alone. Can Trump run aside, apart, alone from the Republican Party without all of the infrastructure, the field organization, the database, the fundraising operation that they have and that he doesn't have?
Well, I think we're going to get unity. Trump has met with the leaders.
When?
Well, he's met with people repeatedly. He talks to Congressman Ryan. He's talked to Senator McConnell on the phone in addition to those personal meetings. He's been reaching out to him. But let me give advice to my Republican colleagues. They need to look at the election returns. They need to understand that the American people are not happy with gridlock in America. They're not happy their wages have fallen since 2000 steadily. They're not happy that we have high unemployment. They're not happy that we have an open border and lawlessness at our border. They believe we should have a lawful system of immigration that serves their interests. They don't believe these trade deals have worked with them. So I think for them. So I think our leaders on both sides need to be considering what the American people are saying in this election, and they need to be a part of the unity too.
Meaning get on the Trump
they need to be participating in fixing some of these things. We haven't been effective in fixing illegal immigration. The trade deal got a lot of votes and support in the Congress from Democrats and Republicans. So I think there's a lot of things we need to learn from the American people.
Let's look at the polls, talking about the American people. On May 23rd, after Trump wrapped up the nomination, the Real Clear Politics average had him tied with Clinton. But now he's trailing by 6 points and in some polls by double digits. Senator, with all the controversies of the last month, especially going after the judge in the Trump University case, hasn't Trump squandered the last few weeks?
Well, I don't think he squandered it, but it's been a difficult time. And the people want to vote for him. He's correct on the issues. And I think tone can improve over time. But I would just say, I remember former President Bush, Senior, was down 15 points at the time of the convention in August, and then won with a huge victory. So I just think this is premature. But I would just say to you, the issues of what are going to work, what will work for Donald Trump: trade, immigration, wages, jobs, gridlock in Washington. He's going to break that up and move us in the right direction, and I believe the numbers are going to move his way steadily as these issues are joined in the fall.
Final question. Some delegates to the Republican convention are now talking about trying to change the rules in Cleveland to make it that no delegates are legally bound and that they could nominate someone other than Donald Trump. How seriously do you take that?
I don't take it seriously at all. I hear somebody say as many as 30. Well, there are 2,400 delegates. Trump has swept this election. He had the biggest percentage, biggest number of votes ever in a Republican primary. He drew in more votes than the Democrats. The Republican primaries cast 2 million more votes than the Democrats. He drew independents, he drew Democrats into the Republican primary. That's a historic thing.
Senator Sessions, thank you. Thanks for